Okay, everyone, we call the March 30th meeting of the Lakewood Consignment Commission, I don't know what the date is, to order. So thanks everyone for coming. And this is our first, if you may notice, a little bit different background here. One, it's our first live meeting for a while. Two, we're actually meeting at the Donahue Rowing Center on sparkling Lakewood Consignment. So it's a beautiful facility. I want to thank Angela and Shrewsbury Park and Rec for letting us bunk here. And stay tuned. We may change the venue again, but hopefully I like this, so maybe we'll hang out here. First thing on the agenda is the meeting is being audio and video recorded, so you'll be able to watch this thing on Shrewsbury Media Connection. It's live tonight as well. That's right. So if you're seeing me right now, you could be seeing me live. And we have no delay, right? Correct. Oh my goodness. So be careful. All right. So anyway, I already called to order. Review and act on the acceptance of minutes of the February 2022 meeting minutes. So.
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we accept the minutes of the last February meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So voted. Next thing is review and approval of bills and expenses. What do we have? Anything?
So for the month of March, we had two invoices. $210 was for the dock plate stickers from Masscore. And then the second one was $143.40 for postage for the dock renewals.
Okay.
That's it.
Good. And do we have anyone for public participation tonight?
No.
No? Okay. And that signed up. So we're going to go on with our commissioners' reports. I'll start it out real quick. First thing, speaking of dock plates and stickers, I got my sticker application, a renewal application in the mail today, so anyone, hope you all get yours, and please send it in. These need to be on the dock. It's less money, right, if they're there, you get them before May 31st,
Yes.
correct? So you save a little bit of dough if you get it in before then. So please, everyone, do your thing, get these in.
Peter,
Yep.
should we vote to approve the bills?
Oh, I'm sorry. You were absolutely right. So excited. All right. So, I'll take a motion to vote to approve the bills.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the bills and expenses as reported by Angela Snell.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, so voted. Now, back to the exciting commissioner report. So, the lake, we see a lot of activity on the lake, which is nice, even though it's cold. Someone was literally water skiing on the Solomon course right in front of my house when I left to come to this meeting. I'm like, okay. So it's happening. So that I wish everybody a safe and healthy and fun season this year. So I think we're gonna have a good season. Hopefully we'll have good weather. And the other point I want to bring up, we had a couple of things. I think the meeting was on March 14th for the kind of a follow-up on the silver spill we had at the MCL. Was that the day of the meeting? Anyway, so
It was a Monday.
it was a Monday, and we had some representatives from Worcester City Council. We had Senator Michael Moore was there, and
It was the 14th, Mr. Chair.
Yep, thank you. And Jay Fink from, he's the Commissioner of Water and Sewer in Worcester was there. So it was a good, enlightening meeting, talking about, what happened, to explain it as best they could, and also what they're looking to do to kind of improve it. And in this stage right now, it seems mostly, and Jack may update us a little bit on this later on, but it seems, they're hiring some consultants, and they're going to look into how we can prevent these kinds of events, or at least mitigate them a little bit better in the future. So that's good news. You know, unfortunately, within the last week or so, we had one of the things we discussed during this meeting was, some of the, my take on the most dangerous or the biggest threat to Lake Quinsigamond today is really, the 200 or so outfalls that we have along the lake, pipes and streams coming in, and because those things are really bringing things into the lake 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So it's not like a spill here and there, and although not to minimize the spill, the last spill we had, because that was a lot of stuff, but just to kind of say that this is something that's happening every single day, so we have to be careful about that. And one silt dump, we'll call it, I guess, was coming from a construction site up on the top of Belmont Hill. It's the 4th time it's actually happened that we've documented, at least. So that was a pretty major spill come down, and it dumped a bunch of silt in the lake coming out of the Belmont Street outfall. So that's basically what happens, because that's directly connected to the stormwater system in Worcester. So as are most of the outfalls that go into the lake that aren't streams. So so that did happen, and I know that Jacqueline did some testing, so hopefully we'll have an update on that. Other than that, I think that's it for me now, and we'll go to some of the other stuff later. Mr. Pica.
Mr. Chair, I have to say, it just disheartens me that so many projects over the years on the Belmont Hill area have unfortunately had, thus then, in construction or whatever, siltation spills that have come out of the Belmont Street outfall drain. It just disheartens me. So, moving on, more than that. As recently as a few minutes ago, I spoke to some abutters who keep a close eye on the eagles on the lake. I'll just use their first names, Nadine and her husband. But the issue is, in the last 2 weeks, nor have I, who physically was near Drake Island looking upon what has been the nest of the eagles, I am not seeing any eagles fishing in the last 2 weeks. I'm just not seeing them. Be it what it may be, the eagles may have moved on, and they're not nesting on Drake Island again as they have for the past approximately 6 years. So it's kind of sad, but that's the latest. There's been reports that they've seen the eagles, but nobody's seeing them fish, and I'm not seeing any heads in their nest. So they might have moved on for whatever reasons. That also brings up another issue, Mr. Chair, and I'm not saying that we need to get into a discussion about that right now, but if the eagles aren't nesting on the island, will the Drake Island, as it's a part of the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission's purview and it's within the lake, are we going to allow for people to beach up there this summer? And that's a huge issue in itself. But let me just take note of that, because that may very well be something that we're facing. Moving on, the lake seems to be up to level, frankly. It came up to level pretty fast. During the winter, I saw a lot of muskrat activity of eating these little small Eurasian clams, which had been an issue of discussion at a previous commission meeting. And call it what you want, fortunately they may be helping in controlling the population of these little tiny shellfish. I saw them all winter long, nibbling along on these shellfish on the edge of the ice. So maybe they're our friend in this respect, although there's a lot of people who say muskrats aren't our friend. They'll end up eating boat parts, burrowing into docks, never mind walls and the like, but they're part of the mother nature around the lake. Other than that, Mr. Chair, at the moment I have nothing else to say. Oh yeah, one other thing. I was passed some correspondence from a fellow by the name of Dominic Esposito, who lives at 128 South Consignment Ave, Shrewsbury, is concerned about all the plastic that is came up on the shore. He's asking whether he feels it's due to storm drain overflow that abuts his property. Is there a stormwater management that has a cleanup company that can assist in this cleanup? I don't know of such. Let me just say that could be from the stormwater, could be from the sewage overflow. But we all have to, in our own parts as stewards of the lake, as abutters, every year inevitably clean up a percentage of plastic overflow that eddies or wind-driven or current-driven washes up on the shore of my property. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And unfortunately, plastics float, and I'd appreciate people keeping up after their properties, though, in terms of taking that out of the watershed, out of the lake, so that it doesn't cause any further harm, never mind unsightly pollution, but as for whatever reasons animals might get involved with it and it's injurious to them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Any input, Ken, on Drake Island?
I think it's probably too early to have any idea what's going to happen. I know that there were signs up that
It's still posted.
it's posted, and I assume it's going to stay posted just because it's a habitat.
That was my thought. Okay, good, thank you. All right, perfect. Selectman Vitos.
Mr. Chair, our boat isn't in the water yet. We expect it to be in the water in the next few weeks when the weather starts to get a little bit nicer and warmer. We did have our first boat meeting with all our primary boat operators yesterday, which was successful. We went over some equipment needs, stuff we need for the upcoming season. We expect to be in full enforcement force down at the boat ramp this year, trying to mitigate a lot of the issues before they get on the lake. I think that was really helpful last year.
Yeah.
Unregistered trailers, unregistered boats, OUI suspicions, all that kind of stuff. So if we can keep them off the water first and then patrol the lake as needed, and I think that's the game plan this year. So we are looking forward to this season. We have a lot of good things in mind, and that's pretty much all I have.
All right, thanks. You said operators. That sounds like it's the whole crew.
Yeah, well, we have designated operators and designated assist officers who aren't trained to the full extent of the operators. So
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Piker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To tie in with that, when I know that Indian Lake has banned the use of jet skis, and that inevitably there's going to be more jet skis on Lake Quinsigamond, I'm curious if you're going to take a look at operators who are going to launch their boats at the Corazini right here. Do they have to show any proof of ownership or registration if asked? I have some concerns that there's been some wanton use of jet skis on the lake where people have rented them and they didn't even know the name of the guy who they rented from, or it's their cousin who gave them the jet ski to take out today, and their knowledge and use of the craft isn't probably as good as the owner. Let me be polite and say that. So I'm just curious as to whether there's been any thought put into that.
of course, it's always a concern, and every year it becomes more of a concern because we're getting more jet skiers, I feel like.
Well, it's got to be more this year,
Yeah,
for sure.
last year, I know Peter and we did try to track down these particular companies that were renting. We had a lot of conversation behind the scenes on it, and we are diligently working on it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where once you get a group of them out, inevitably another one comes in once they find out. So it's constantly trying to maintain that. So we're working on it, for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, and yeah, we've been approached by a jet ski rental company. So, and we've also been approached by someone who wants to rent pontoon boats. They haven't taken any formal step. I haven't gotten an application or anything like that. But that's something that the commission will have to address. The rules of the Lake Commission is basically that you have to get a permit from the Lake Commission to rent any type of motorboat on the lake, any type of motorized vessel. So we'd have to have to come through us at that point. Yep.
Well, in that regard, Mr. Chair, let me just say that I read in the Worcester paper that the Woo Sox at Polo Park are planning on having a duck boat. I don't know if anybody knows that, but let me just say that out loud. I read it in the Worcester paper. Where are they going to use the duck boat? What do you think?
I actually.
So, I mean, that
Drill down
becomes,
on
that becomes an issue for us in terms of whether we're going to have, duck boats on the lake and all that, and what's going to be our position in that regard. So,
Again, that's going to be a decision that if they do that and it's for hire, then that would fall under that rule. 1, 2, I believe the duck boat may be longer than 30 feet. So that would be another thing. What's that?
It doesn't have an engine.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to top all that off, I think the duck boat's plan is to park it right there next to the diner up by the ballpark, and that's where it's going to pretty much stay.
I think it's already there.
It is there.
Yeah.
It is. But they took it and they put it on the ramp truck and drove it down Park Ave, right? Yeah, so for St. Patty's Day parade.
they're working at it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I don't know, maybe they'll slap an engine in it, who knows? But it's still good, I'm sure it'll come to force when it happens.
So let it be said, if I could, excuse me, Mr. Chair, by speaking up, if the people at Polo Park plan on using it on the lake, they're going to have to come in front of us. We're going to have to talk about it, okay? In terms of permits, as you were implying, Mr. Chair?
Right.
Thank you.
Apply and do all that.
Thank you. Let it just be part of public record that's set out. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Perfect, thanks, man. Sergeant Grum?
April 4th, we have a meeting with Shrewsbury and Environmental Police for the upcoming summer season that I'll be attending. Indian Lake is closed through September for jet skis, so I would assume it's going to be, like that gentleman down there said, there will be an uptick. It's through the entire summer season. Indian Lake is closed for that one-year ban. Started last September, it was a one-year ban. It goes right through the summer until September. They'll reassess it then. The fire boat, police boat that we share with the fire department, the public safety boat says was the public safety. That's on the water as of Monday, mostly for fire and police right now.
Yeah.
We have another police boat that goes back and forth between Quinsigamond here. We do wash the boat. Once we leave Quinsigamond, leave here, we do go back to the station, we wash the boat down inside our garage and stuff like that to make sure we're not contaminating any type of plant life, right? Not bringing some type of contaminant or anything like that, but it goes back and forth. That's a smaller boat, but we can get over to Flint Pond. We were over to Flint Pond a few times last year. The police fire boat, we can get over there as well, but it's got to drop the awning down and stuff like that. So we did make some visits at Flint Pond last year. I know a lot of residents that live over there saw us and talked to us and stuff like that. But it's still tough to navigate over there because we're not sure where all the stumps and stuff are. But
Are you driving the boat?
yeah, we have 13. Well, right now we have 9, but we're certifying another 8 people. But our unit, all 13 of us will be trained on the boat. So we have a new lieutenant this year. He's actually going to get certified on the boat and is going to also be on the boat. It's always going to be manned by 2 people. We're going to we're going to look at Browning Beach when we have the manpower to look at Browning Beach on hot days. Our goal is being by the water by Memorial Day weekend, but we're going to adjust according to weather. If it's 90 degrees on a Saturday, May 15th or something like that, then we'll probably drop the boat.
Okay.
Bring our boat down and be on the water by then. That's pretty much it.
All right, perfect. If you need, I live on Flint Pond, so I go back and forth there all the time.
Okay.
And so if you guys need, what path to take and how to do it, let me know. I'll be glad to go out there and ride.
Okay.
Try to do it. There are some tricky spots.
Yeah, we hit one last year.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I found it all the hard way. I went all the hard way now. Got a garage full of aluminum props. So, all right, thank you. But that's good news. So, all right. Next, Lisa.
I have no report.
No report. All right. Perfect. And Mr. Nelson, how are we doing?
Just a couple of comments. The Quinsigamond Rowing Club has, since the docks are in, has started rowing, but they're still operating under the cold water rules, which means 4 oars on the water all times. Any time someone goes out in a single, there has to be 2 singles side by side. And they have to have cell phones, whistles, and a life preserver over them as long as they're operating under the cold weather rules. And as everybody knows, the college crews are now rowing. Racing starts for 8 weeks this Saturday. So as far as the rowing community is going, things are getting quite busy on the lake, and probably will be till it gets colder in the fall.
All right, nice. Good to see everyone back. Okay, you have a question?
I'll give my report when I give my report.
Okay.
Yeah, you skipped me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
All right.
man, okay.
I only have one thing.
I'm dyslexic. Sorry, Ken.
Sorry, the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions to replace the wall of 210 South Quincy at Sunset Landing. That's the wall that's fallen into the lake.
Yes.
So that will be repaired in the fall during drawdown. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Sorry about that. All right, so we're good with that. See if we can get through without skipping anything else. Okay, presentation from the Shrewsbury Community Preservation Committee. Please come up. Thank you so much for coming up. You just come up and introduce yourselves, just for the record.
Hello, I'm Melanie McGee from the Shrewsbury Preservation Committee,
And I'm Gail Aslanian on the Shrewsbury Preservation Committee representing the Historical Commission.
we are here today because we are charged with soliciting other boards and committees in Shrewsbury, and I apologize to people from Worcester and Grafton who have to listen to this, but here we are. We are charged with getting all the information that we can as to what the community is interested in the way of preserving, in the way of open space, outdoor recreation facilities, historic preservation issues, and affordable housing. Now, you're probably going to wonder why we're asking you, but you may have interests outside of the lake, and so we are asking you what you consider the important resources that you might be involved in or know about or think about, and we will make a note of what you consider those resources, and then we would also like to hear what you would like to see done within the constraints of our committee. I should tell you that in the way of background, our committee was formed just this after town meeting, and previous to that it had to pass a ballot question. And the law has been on the books in the state since 2000. We're kind of late at adapting it, but here we are, and I'm happy to be here. So the committee has been organized since, when was it, October, when we had our first meeting, and we had some training sessions, and one of our things was that we had to write up a plan, and that the plan is where we come here today to fill in the blanks of our what the community wants from us. So, why don't I just go through my little list? As regards, where did that page go?
Are all of you familiar with the Community Preservation Act? I know the Shrewsbury and Grafton is. It's a great community resource where people can present projects to the committee, and we'll review those projects to see whether they fall into the guidelines that we will set. And it's community generated, so that's why we're here, to get the input of as many people from the boards, commissions. We had a wonderful public forum last night at the library, was very well attended, and we got a lot of input from the community on that. So not just with the lake, but this is one of the greatest resources that Shrewsbury has, so it's important that we get your input as well as to how we can maximize this resource for the whole community.
I'll make a comment on that. The Grafton Community Preservation Committee has been helping like Quinsigamond and has funded projects on this.
Great.
And we've found it's been a difficulty because there are very strict, straight rules on this. For example, it cannot fund maintenance projects, so we can't
Correct.
treat weeds or repair things in the lake. But what we have managed to do successfully is, for example, the terrible invasive weed problem in Flint Pond. We have had the Grafton Community Preservation Committee do a study of at least 2 of them. The first one was on the pollution levels, going all the way back to what was dumped in there, God knows, during World War II by Wyman Gordon when they were doing nuclear work there. And then second project is, in the process, Wyman Gordon changed the water flow around Flint Pond. So the second project we have funded with community preservation funds on Flint Pond, of course, which is partially in Grafton, is a study of the past history of the water flow to see how that changed the weed problem and how, if it was adjusted back to the way it used to be, if that increased flow of water would improve the weed problem. So we've managed to do some things on the lake, but we had to be very, very careful that we satisfied all the state rules and regulations in the way we did it. And so I just wanted to let you know
No, absolutely.
what the lake has been, how it's been taking advantage of those funds from other towns previously.
Yep, wonderful.
That's very interesting. Does everybody know where we get the money for this? This is a tax levy on property owners, 1%. It's a kind of complicated thing, and I won't go into it, but it doesn't really amount to a large amount per homeowner unless you live in a real palace. And then there's a state match. So we are looking at, what was it, $786,000 from our town to this year, at the end of the year, and then there will be probably a state match of another 200 and some thousand. So we're looking at about $1 million. It will be distributed 10% to each of the 3 groups. Open space and recreation is treated as one. Affordable housing and historic preservation. And the remainder of the money, aside from a 5% thing that can be administrative expenses, will go into the reserve fund and can be used for any of the 4 areas. So just so you know that that's the background of that. I don't know how many people really are aware.
Mike?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I don't know if you're here tonight to solicit issues of concern that might come under the Shrewsbury Act, we'll call it, but it has been brought up in front of this commission before. There's definitely a need for, when it comes to the Route 20 and the Corzini ramp, of having some washing stations so that boats coming in, maybe as well as leaving, would rinse off their boats to cut down in terms of transfer of nuisance invasive weeds. And I think that would be a really great project if some monies could be allocated towards that, for one thing, and that's just one idea on my part, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
We have heard about this and are prepared to consider it. It sounds like it's a possibility. I can't say for sure, of course.
The only launch site you have on the lake?
Yeah, we're actually, it's 2 launch
Shrewsbury,
sites.
yeah.
It's Corzini, which is right here.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, right there.
And this,
There.
Which that's right here. It's right over there. And then we have one on Route 20 on Flint Pond. So, and we'd like to.
they're both in Shrewsbury.
They're both in Shrewsbury,
They're both
okay.
Shrewsbury. And, and I think everyone here is pretty familiar with what CPC is and where the money comes from. Does anyone want to get a primer on that? And
We're prepared to talk about it,
Yeah.
to anyone privately or here or however you want, but it can get involved, but,
Right.
we're well-versed.
right. So, from our standpoint, is that, there's probably many projects on there. Oak Island itself is probably a great space. It's open space. It's Shrewsbury Parkland. It's beautiful. It's probably got about 2,500 to 3,000 feet of waterfront.
And what would you like to see on Oak Island? More passive recreation,
And I don't
a
wanna get in
picnic
trouble. I
area?
don't want to follow our Parks and Rec director over here, but if it were up to me, it could be, just kind of finish it and neaten it up a little bit more. And, right now it's not raw, but pretty close to it. And I'd like to see some little bit better access to it, especially from a law enforcement standpoint, because right now I don't think there's a guardrail that goes across the entrance to it. If you come in Flint Pond Boat Ramp, if you pull in there, just for reference, and you look over to the right as you drive toward the lake, you're going to see a guardrail going along the whole length of it, of the parking lot. And behind that is a stone wall, and then behind that is Shrewsbury's land. So, access to get in there. There's a road, there's kind of a dirt road that goes, from that guardrail, inside the guardrail, all the way to the end. So it'd be nice if the vehicles from law enforcement and the fire department, safety vehicles, could have access and get down in there easily, that kind of thing. But even the park, we've had some history there. That's something we want to preserve. Okay.
Yep.
It's the kind of historic thing we want to preserve, but there's been some activity down there that is less than ideal, and a lot of it's because of, when you have a space of land, whether it's open or we had the same problem under the Route 9 bridge there for a while in the old setup, is because if no one's down there and it's kind of dark, things are going to happen. So, you light stuff up, you make it popular, you have people walking around and families and pets or whatever, it's not going to be so bad. You're just not going to draw that element because they don't want to be around that kind of activity. So, but it's interesting because when I was on the Open Space Committee, listening to those conversations, we had one, someone piped up one time and said, we want to get access to the lake. We ought to buy Buca de Pepa because, that property's there and we could get that and have access to the lake, which is great. Except I'm thinking to myself, you have over 2,000 feet of waterfront that's Shrewsbury Parkland that you already own. So instead of spending $2.5 million buying Buca, maybe you invest in that. But it's a great spot, nice place to be. I don't think it's probably a good idea to put a beach in there and go through all that stuff, but you could still do a lot. You could do a lot with it, and I encourage you to take a look around there. But the boat washing, the boat cleaning station would be a tremendous boon to the health of Lake Quinsigamond. So that would be also a nice project. So, and I don't know. I'm hoping that we can come back to you every so often with good ideas and good projects to present.
We would love to hear from you.
You know,
All our meetings will be open meetings, and we will presumably be meeting in the town hall, assuming there's no plague, or anything, no
Right,
COVID.
exactly.
And all our meetings will be open, and we'd love to talk to you. And, in general, or if you want to have a more private meeting with a particular project in mind that we can, not private, anything is open that we do.
Right.
But you know what I mean, that if you just want
Same
to
here.
kind of a one-to-one about a specific project, we'll be happy to talk to you. We are not accepting applications at the moment. We are not ready yet. We still have a lot of work to do with our plan, with our forms. All the application forms for funding have to be made out, and there has to be a workflow decided, and a timeline and everything. So we feel by the end of the summer, we'll be ready to accept applications for funding later on.
Yep, go ahead.
Sir?
So, right,
Yep.
Go ahead.
let me just accentuate the point that Oak Island, which is a great resource, a lot of open land in the town of Shrewsbury, has had a notorious trashy past, both literally and figuratively. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yes, we're aware of it.
Okay.
And I would rather have some more generally popular activity, just because we are bound by all kinds of
Yes.
open. The flavor has to be open to everyone. That's the idea. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good boon for the certainly for the Edgemere section of Shrewsbury to kind of get people introduced down there. I grew up a mile from the center, and we tended to hang out there, and that's what we did. And I had friends at Edgemere, but I moved to Edgemere in '88, I can't think of a better place in town to live. I think a lot of folks don't see that down there. It's just kind of what it is, and they don't get it. They don't, you drive by the boat ramp, you don't really see it. So if you take a tour around this property, and you kind of, think to yourself, wow, this could be really, really nice down here. It's probably one of our nicer
Oh, yeah.
parklands in town. I'll say that.
Well, I will tell you from the point of view, I'm on the Trails Committee, and
Yeah.
there are parts of town I have never been in, and I'm sure they're
Yeah.
lovely.
The trail,
So I'm
well,
finding out things day in, day out, I find new places to walk.
yeah, thank you for the trail. I spent, you know, there have been, like, all the trails that I've been on, the old Girl Scout camp.
Oh, yes, Camp Quinsigamond, love
Yeah,
that.
I love it, and
Yeah.
I hung out there when I was a little kid, before they even put 140 in.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so it was, not when the kids were there, but, you know, we used to go down and, when it was abandoned, it was more fun.
Okay.
And the old Masonic home, Prospect Park. It's
Yep,
just- it's just-
yep,
it's
lovely
very
spot.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
very nice.
all wonderful places.
Yeah,
So,
okay, so, yeah,
Now, let me just ask if there are any other, in the other categories, are there, now, your recreation is water-oriented, I assume, so you're thinking in those terms. But if there's anything that you have of interest in Shrewsbury that you'd like to see in the way of playing fields, picnic areas, in the whole town, not just near the lake, because we are, you know, interested in the whole town, and you are, you know, involved in the whole town, so if there's anything else, or if you think of any historic artifacts or buildings, or there's an interesting little line in there about vessels, meaning boats. If you have an antique boat you would like to see preserved, that has some history that can, you know, is related to Shrewsbury, you know, maybe that could be a project.
that's nice. I have an antique boat that was once owned by the
Now,
commissioner of.
There are,
Have to be
there are
for
very
public,
stern.
for public good, not private good.
It is a good buffing out, okay? Mr. Pike.
Another idea, Mr. Chair. A few years ago, we used to have a group of folks who had a water rescue service. They might have had some other name. But if there was a boat on the lake that really attended to things like the Shrewsbury, Concom Island, Drake Island, keeping it clean, a litter, and with a net to scoop up inevitable plastic particles that are floating on the water, to keep the water clean in terms of obvious debris or litter, that might not be such a bad idea too. I'm not saying it could aid the police in terms of an emergency, but they could do that as well. But inevitably there's litter on the water from time to time and on the aforementioned island, as well as going under the bridge at Sunset Beach towards Flint Pond. That could be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just
Okay.
another idea.
We will consider anything, but I have a feeling that that's edging into maintenance.
If it doesn't come within your purview, it doesn't, but I
No,
think if you
I
came to
I
force
suspect
tonight,
not, but we will, like I
here's some
said, we'll
ideas,
consider
I just wanted to
anything
share.
that you,
Thank
if there may be ways of working things out or phrasing it or having a facility that would do something like that, but we can't fund maintenance.
For instance, there's also been a volunteer effort to harvest water chestnuts just not too far from here, which requires being in a boat and hand pulling them out. There's things like that that could preserve the integrity of the water.
Now that might be possible.
Well, but if you had a boat, then you could go and pull up the water chestnut and help keep that invasive weed from spreading in the water and choking the clarity of the water.
I have seen programs that had to do with removing invasive species.
Yeah.
So they didn't mention boats.
Yeah,
You need a boat to do that. So,
Yeah,
for instance. So,
most often.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
As a point of clarification for myself, in Shrewsbury, as far as public access goes, is it just the 2 boat ramps, or are there other public access sites that Shrewsbury residents can access the lake?
Gouch Park.
Gouge Park, yeah, right down the road.
Gulf Park,
Carry
yeah.
a canoe or kayak.
It's just, okay, there's no swimming access though anywhere, is there? Okay,
No.
other than Sunset Beach, but that's private?
Sunset Beach is privately
Okay.
owned.
Because that's come
I mean,
up
through
several
state park,
times in our
it's a public access,
conversation.
But you gotta,
Okay.
state, it's a state
Now,
regulation.
I know there's, in other towns, there have been interest in places that have kayak and canoe launches.
Yeah,
And if there is a good spot for that, that might be a project, especially if it's off of town land.
well,
So,
you, Oakland,
okay,
There you go.
all right.
you go back to, you already own it.
All right. Yeah, the more the better, you know.
Yeah.
There are even a lot of little ponds in town that would be well suited to that.
Well, the other place is you just look at it as Newton Pond, you know, I mean, being a, you know, lake guy, some of the small ones, you stick your kayak in there, you know, you take one lap around and you kind of, it's like a small trail.
Yeah.
You know, like
You know,
Oak Island may
maybe-
not be the best walking trail because it only takes you about 10 minutes to walk around the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, for seniors, it might not be.
And small children, yes, and small children.
This was fun, you know.
Well, you've given us some good ideas. I hope that your thoughts will generate some project ideas that come before the CPC, because it, like I said, it's community generated, so it's not the CPC that makes the projects particularly, but we field what comes in, the application. So it's incumbent upon the citizens of Shrewsbury to bring all these great ideas to us so that we can look at them and evaluate them. And
No, thank you for doing this, and, you know, for me, I think it's a great project. I voted for it at town meeting.
it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
It is. I
We're
think
gonna have a
it's
great time
good
with
thing.
this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's money we wouldn't get if we didn't.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And you know,
Have our taxes taken out for it.
yeah, they say that, people have told me that have CPC, that it's the happiest committee in their town.
Oh, they've never been to one of my meetings.
Well, Trails is pretty cheery too, but yeah, very good. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you for your
We
time.
really appreciate it, and
And we look forward to your proposals.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. All right. And update on the lake management plan. You guys can stay for the rest of the meeting if you want.
They gotta go.
Okay, so discuss the permanent drawdown at Newton Pond. It's in process, I really don't have a lot to discuss about it, so we're moving forward. Discuss and approve funding for the weed mapping on Lakewood Consignment. So Jacqueline, I'm gonna, I guess, ask you, what do you, I know we're back and forth, what do you think? Is this something you guys want to tackle in the
Yes,
city?
we are,
Or from Lakes and Ponds, I should say?
Lakes and Ponds is
Yeah.
able to cover the mapping.
Okay. So, all right. Perfect. We can go through all that detail and figure out how we're gonna pull that off. And discuss approval of funds for the bid presentations for the 2022 season and invasive weed treatment. We have not finished that bid yet, correct?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to also come back to you, Jacqueline, in a consultative capacity.
So we're doing the bid like we did last year for Lakewood, Sequin, Flint Pond.
Right.
And then a separate one for Newton Pond.
Correct.
Okay.
So, but you know, on Quinsigamond, basically our, with the exception of the project we're doing at Half Moon and Old Faith, I'm hoping this year, which is a separate thing. That's where the rail plant is, right? The rest of it's pretty much the same. We're going to be treating in the exact same area that we treated last year, as far as Flint Pond goes, which is the bulk or the biggest concentrations of milfoil that we have, and I believe family. So I think the plan here is to hit it with, I want to say sonar. Is that the one that you can do every couple of years?
You can only do sonar every few years.
Yeah,
and
right.
It doesn't need any,
Right. So
yeah.
the last time we did do that over there, it did basically knock it back for a couple of years, so that was a good thing. So we'd like to do that again, but we're probably going to do it with, we're going to do the treatment before we do the weed map. Would that make sense or not make sense? As far as getting the bid out. Because sonar, my understanding of sonar, it has to be applied thoroughly.
You apply it in June and July, yeah.
Would that give us enough time to do a map and then turn the treatment around? I want to avoid doing it in September. Because
Yeah.
it's kind of my thing.
Yeah, we'll have to consider the timing of the map, and we have some flexibility with that.
Because you can't really go out on the map until the weeds are.
Right, we're not gonna be able to use the map from this year to treat for
Right,
this
okay.
year. So
That was my
we're not-
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Right.
map that we have, will have to be for future years.
All right. Thank you.
Which is fine, because it means that next year's treatments will be really precise, since they'll be reflective of the conditions
Correct.
that are real. Yeah.
Right, at some point, I'm hoping that we get approval from Natural Heritage to go back into Half Moon and possibly treat in Old Faith Cove. As if, in case, we didn't actually find Vasii in Half Moon. We found a narrow leaf Potahetan, but it wasn't Vasii. So we didn't actually have, they didn't find the endangered species there. However, Natural Heritage is commented that was, well, it's still a habitat. So, we want to treat the same way. So what I'd like to do this year is approach them and say, can we do, and based on the success that you had with Prochylicore at Indian Lake, can we take that and treat it an Old Faith to see if it's gonna, affect the rare plant. So that'll be a little bit different than the regular weed treatment, but.
Yeah, but not this year,
What's that?
but not this year,
Not this year, what?
that treatment, the Priscilla-Core.
I was hoping to do it this year. Why would you say not this year?
Just because we don't have an updated map.
We do a map. I think we have a map of Old Faith.
Okay.
Yeah, Old Faith and Half Moon. We had to do that. We had divers in the water last year.
I'll have to check what that looks like. Yeah.
All right. All right.
But yeah, we'll work on the bid specs.
Okay.
D,
And D, update on the Grafton CBC projects. The bid went out, and I think we have one bid in.
Yes,
And when's bidding over?
Tomorrow.
today,
Today?
yes,
So it's over now.
yes.
It's over.
So we're just reviewing
We're reviewing our one bid.
results and making sure everything's checking references, and then we'll proceed with the contract, and then we can set up a schedule.
Okay. All right. So that's good.
Yes,
All right. So this would
came
be,
in within budget,
did it?
yes.
Perfect. Very nice. All right. That's it for that part of it. So an update from Jacqueline. Okay. The Senior Environmental Analyst, Lakes and Ponds, City of Worcester.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Burminster from the City of Worcester, Department of Sustainability and Resilience, the coordinator of the Lakes and Ponds program. So I just have a couple things to talk to you quickly about tonight. As the chair mentioned earlier, we had a meeting on March 14th in which some of the aftermath of what was happening at the Lake Ave pump station was discussed, and plans for future reporting. At that time, I had released a report on our water quality sampling up to that point that we had done in response to the incident. We have continued to take water quality samples in those locations over the last few weeks. We're not going to be able to publish the results in a big report after every single one, but we do plan on continuing to make those public and producing another report soon. The results from that evening are on the City of Worcester Lakes and Ponds webpage, worcesterma.gov/blue space. You could find that there. Since then, the results that we were getting as we were going out are very similar to what we had been getting up to that point. So we haven't yet seen any change in water quality resulting from the incident from what we had been seeing up to that point. So that's good news. We're going to continue to monitor to make sure that the conditions don't deteriorate as the water becomes warmer. So we're heading out now about once a week to continue to monitor that. So that's good. As was mentioned earlier in the meeting, last Friday, we did receive reports that there was a sediment plume coming out from underneath of the Route 9 bridge outfall. We got those reports early in the morning, mid-morning, at which point we went out to collect some samples from the site, both at the outfall and then further downstream. We were able to determine that the sediment plume that was being witnessed was sourced from the outfall. Looking to the north from the Route 9 bridge, everything looked normal. Looking south, especially in that channel along the island and the Worcester shore, that was clearly the source of the problem. And when we got closer to the outfall, we were able to confirm that. We were taking some water quality samples. Unfortunately, the Secchi clarity, so how clear the water is, usually around this time of year, we're seeing clarities around 8, 9, 10 feet near the bridge, or like right around that island. We were looking at like 2.5 feet of clarity, so there was some major impacts to that. They have since, we went out again today, so we'll know if we're going out again tomorrow, so we'll know if those have lingered. I'm guessing that it's probably subsided. It was a lot of fine particles. We didn't see any bacteria, high bacteria samples, so that was good. We didn't see any changes in oxygen levels. We haven't gotten the results back yet for phosphorus. I'm guessing they'll be elevated, but we don't know yet. Just because sediments tend to be how those nutrients get transported. So we'll have more results on that soon. But definitely not a good situation. We went up to the site, the series of sites with the conservation agents to evaluate what was going on up at those construction areas off Hospital Drive. For those of you who are not familiar, there are 4 open construction sites up there. I am not as intimately familiar with all of the different projects. All of them have had issues in the past. All of them have had interactions with the Conservation Commission in the past. And so this is something that is continuously being addressed by the Worcester Concom and maybe the representative from the Worcester Concom would be better positioned to talk about that. But it was suspected that it was a combination of several of those sites that contributed to the event, and they weren't able to necessarily pinpoint one contractor, which would have made it much easier, obviously. So, yeah, it's definitely a concerning situation, but we are continuing to monitor that as well. In other news, we are getting ready to begin sampling our regular season. So we generally are sampling water in Lake Quinsigamond along, not just near the Lake Ave pump station, but also in the northern part of the lake. We do that starting in May through December, really. And so we're getting ready to start that up. We're also starting our volunteer community science program. We're going to have our volunteer training this coming Thursday, so next Thursday, the 7th. It is free to join. To be a volunteer, you need no background. You can just show up. We'll give you all the supplies. We'll even give you a lake if you don't have a lake that you want to test at. And it's a lot of fun. You learn a lot. We've had some great volunteers here from the Watershed Association, you know, we've had volunteers for Newton Pond, volunteers for Flint Pond, volunteered for Lake Quinsigamond as well, and yeah, we're increasing the number of times that we're sampling this summer, so we're going to get even more clear results about what these dynamics are in our lake and if this is a threat. So, yeah, does anyone have any questions?
I have a slightly tangential question.
Yeah.
Living in Grafton, I get the Grafton News, and it constantly has articles about the Blackstone River Watershed Association, the Quinsigamond River Watershed Association, going all the way down to Rhode Island and Narragansett Bay and talking about all the things they're doing. Do you have strong interactions or any interactions with them?
Some interactions, yeah. We don't have any current projects going on with them.
Joint
No.
projects or a sharing of data
so-
or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, our data is open to anyone who wants to look at it, right? And there are times that the Blackstone River Association does collect data through a community science program as well, and we will share each other's data. So their sample sites, they have a few sample sites up in this portion of the watershed, but the sampling that they do is a little bit different than what we're doing, and isn't necessarily comparable apples to apples, right? So that is a challenge, and so we are making active efforts to kind of working with universities around town to try and bring everyone on the same page and use the same methods so that we can cover a larger geographic area and collect more data that actually can be compared apples to apples. So we're actually doing this in the Tatnick Brook watershed right now, and it's a really exciting project, working with Worcester State University. And so we would love to be able to do something like that and expand the reach of the program. Yeah.
Yeah, reading those articles, it seems that both those watershed associations have a strong interaction with Clark University.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that there is a staffer that works out of Clark University.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add on to that, Bill, is that I'm on all the communications for the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative. I think that's what they call it, right? And so, they do testing up here, and the commission and the watershed, and the goal is, from my viewpoint, is the commission should be, the commission should also participate in testing themselves, just so we can have a handle on this. We're ultimately responsible for treating and maintaining the lake, so we really need to know what's going into the lake. One of the things that Jacqueline brought up is that, and this is kind of what stirred us to start taking on the initiative ourselves, is there's no one central data that you can just go to and say, hey, what's going on here, and kind of compare everything. And that'd be the goal, is to get everybody to collaborate and get in there and have all that data so everyone could kind of get a look at it and see. Because one group may miss something that another group picks up, so it's a good thing. But the Blackstone Collaborative, if nothing else, is a good model, because they're very organized. But they also have a full-time. They have a staff too, right? It's not just a bunch of volunteers. So not that there's anything wrong with volunteers. And that's one thing I do want to say from your presentations. Thanks to all the volunteers who do this in any pond, but especially in our little network of waterways here. So we really appreciate that, and it doesn't go unnoticed. And the other question I have for you is, have you done any testing in Old Mill Pond at all?
I don't believe so.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because it's kind of coming up. Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm confident there's a fairly large weed manifestation in there, but that feeds through the Tilly Brook into the river. I mean, into the lake. Yes.
I'm doing a study of the weeds there.
Are you? Okay. So,
oh, really?
So someone's doing it, right? Yeah.
We're going to do it, I just got a contract for that.
All right.
So
Perfect.
I'll share the results when it's
That'd be
done.
Oh,
great.
excellent. Yeah.
That's a big one. Kind of.
Yeah, I was not
Kind of
aware.
fell off. I mean, it's kind of like dull when you think about it. But
No, that's good to know.
yeah.
I'll check
You know
it
where it
out.
is?
No.
So, well, we're not going to tell you. All right.
Yeah, no, I would definitely be interested in learning more about that.
Okay. Perfect.
Great.
Anyone else have any questions?
Thanks.
Great as always. All right.
Item 10.
Yes, item 10 is, thanks, Mike, is a review and act on request from the Quinsigamond Rowing Association for races on April 13th, 2022, and practice day on May 13th, 2022. Don't you have the practice day before the race?
That's for the Eastern sprints. We were trying to get away from it. But we
The
had,
sprints are coming, right?
yeah, they'll be here that Sunday. So, we had been trying to get away from the Friday race day on that one, Friday practice day, excuse me. But we did have a late request for that to be able to get in sort of midday and practice on the lake. So
All right,
it
so do you
wouldn't
want a ramp
interrupt.
closing?
No.
No?
No, neither of these would
All right.
involve ramp closings. And the other was just, we did have a couple of late additions and high school races on a Wednesday afternoon to the master schedule.
Was that one on
Yeah,
there? Okay.
The April date is the Wednesday. And then
Oh, that's a Wednesday, that's the
Yeah.
high school thing?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's at 3 to 7, yeah.
The Shrewsbury racing?
On Wednesday, yes.
Yes,
Are they? All right then.
okay.
I'm only kidding. All right, so is there a motion to, and we have all the stuff we need for that? Okay,
Motion to approve.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And item 11, update from representative of the Lakewood Sequin Watershed Association. All right,
Hello, yep, Barbara Kickham.
who can walk to the meeting?
I did walk through the meeting.
That's right.
I thought about driving, it's a little cold, but
You know
I
what, I
was
would
felt
have been impressed
guilty.
if you swam over it. That would have been,
Maybe in the summer.
that would have been impressive.
Just a couple things to report. Angela has had 10 student volunteers from the Townsend High School to come and clean up at Oak Island. They
Oh, nice.
volunteered to come here because they couldn't go to Italy, was that it, literally?
New Orleans, yeah.
No, or New Orleans, okay. So, but it was very nice, they got, these kids are gonna spend the whole day, they're gonna clean up Oak Island.
That's
Then they're
great.
gonna go to
Just
Gouche
saying.
Park and clean up there. It's a pretty clean park. Neighbors are, really do a good job down there, but they're gonna help with the rain garden and do some plantings down there. That's April 20th, and then the town cleanup is April 23rd, the following Saturday. So we are looking for volunteers to maybe help with cleanup along Route 20, Half Moon Cove, there, possibly Brownie Beach area. So if anyone, they should contact, and I know it's not Shrewsbury, but Brownie Beach always needs a lot of help. So contact Angela or email me or email info@lqwa.org.
Barbara, if I could ask, what date again, from when to when will that cleanup be happening?
Well, it's April 23rd, and we usually just do it in the morning whenever people show up, if they show up at 7 or
9 till
8.
12-ish, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but we're still kind of looking for someone to organize it, or, some volunteers. Our usual volunteers are out of town that week, it's school vacation week. So if we get some interest, we'll pick some spots and we'll get some more definite times. Our next meeting is April 20th, also that Wednesday, the next LQWA meeting. And also Newton Pond residents want to do some storm drain stenciling, and so we'll probably be doing that in May. Been in touch with Brad Stone, and he's, because they're moving, the office is in disarray, whatever, it'll probably be late April. We'll get them going to do storm drain marking to say, this flows to Newton Pond, and they've been waiting to do that, so. And also the water chestnuts you brought
If I
up,
can
Mike.
interrupt, Barbara, where and what time will the Lakewood Sequin Watershed Association meeting next be?
It will be
happening
April, sorry, I didn't say that, April 20th. We hold them at the MCL typically.
Marine Corps League on Lake Ave in Worcester.
Yeah, we've been doing Zoom, so I send an email out and kind of, the regulars who come, what would you prefer, Zoom or in person? So I'm not sure about next, if it's gonna be Zoom or not, but we send that out in the email news blast.
What time
So,
will that start?
7.
Thank you.
7. So you'll either be Zoom or in person, not sure. And we will be looking for volunteers this summer, be sending out requests for volunteers to help do the water chestnut removal. We did it last summer, Pete and I, and we had a half a dozen volunteers. It's really hard work. That's why we need a lot of volunteers. It's not something we can really pay, or we can pay, but it's very expensive, so it's saving us all a lot of tax dollars if we can do it ourselves. And the first step, it's still pretty limited. We can still do it ourselves, but if it gets out of control, then we will have to bring in chemicals, and we really, want to avoid that. So down at, I forget that neighborhood. What's the name of that neighborhood? It's off.
Old Faith?
Old Faith,
Yep.
near Sunset Beach.
Yep.
We spent some time down there, did as much as we could. They'll definitely come back. They live in the sediment for 8 or 10 years, I think Jacqueline has said. And then on the very north end of the lake, we had a report that there's a lot there as well, which is concerning because it's so far away. So we'll be heading up there. And we've also had reports on the other side of Main Street of water chestnut. So we'll start earlier and hopefully get more people. Hopefully get some
Perfect.
people there.
I'm assuming that on this end of the lake, on the north end of the lake, that probably the pond on the other side of Main Street is feeding
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
water chestnuts is coming into this little cove over
Yeah.
here, so.
yeah. I've seen them over there.
And the first one I saw was over here. That was probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was like one little chestnut hanging out.
Yeah.
So they're nasty and they're really, really invasive, and if you don't
Yeah.
believe that, you can talk to Jacqueline.
Yeah, the chestnuts
And
have,
ask her about Patches Reservoir.
they have like
So-
1/4-inch barbs. If you step on them, they're very painful, and picking them up is very, if you need gloves. They're just, each one has like 5 or 8
Yeah.
of these nuts. Each nut can produce 10 plants or something, and they grow 10 feet long. They're just tremendous.
And it's
So,
fast.
Yeah.
It's
A question, do the volunteers need boats? Are these in deeper water, or are they just in shallow water where you can wade?
We did it with kayaks.
You need some kind of vessel.
You need a vessel, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some
Volunteers
on the
with a
beach.
vessel would be much more appropriate.
The neighbors could have done it with hip waders or whatever. Definitely, there's a lot that are shallow. Yeah, you can do both.
Yeah, there's a place you can get them in shallow. In that particular place in Old Faith, it's kind of, it gets mucky quick there. So it's not really a great place to walk around, past 15 feet or so from shore. It's shallow enough, it's just not a good place to walk around. That said, it was sad that none of the volunteers we had were from Old Faith Cove. Jacqueline.
So, we hosted a few water chestnut pulls in the Tappan Brook area.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I've collected quite a few hampers, which we found to be like a really great vessel to hold.
Oh, that'd be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
to hold water chestnuts in, especially in a kayak, they would like fit in the front with you, or
so it's like the clothes basket,
a
huh?
clothes basket,
Yeah.
yeah, so like a plastic.
Right there, yeah.
So I have like 10 of those if you want to borrow them for the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we used plastic bags and they filled up with water and they were like ridiculously
Oh.
heavy, and so that's a
We
good idea.
literally dragged it. The worst part of that was dragging the plastic bags up onto I'm sure the worst part of it actually was putting the plastic bags in the truck.
We had a scoop, so,
Oh, you had a scoop?
yeah.
Oh, fine.
But I have an Eagle Scout candidate that actually just emailed me today that wants to do an invasive weed project, so
That's
this
perfect.
is the project for it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
We'll think of
I'll
something.
talk to you, we can connect
Okay.
with them.
Yeah,
It
great.
also makes really nice compost, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, the town took it all, so they probably sold it. They're using it on the soccer fields.
Yeah.
Wear your shoes if they're doing that. Those nuts are nasty. All right, so correspondence. Mike stole our thunder on that. So the only correspondence we had was from the guy with what's his name? Dominic. About the plastic washing up on the beach. It is a universal problem on Lake Quinsigamond, or I think any lake. I've been on lakes my whole life. And from my perspective, I got stuff, and I'm on Flint Pond. Everyone says, "Oh no, I face north, and that's why it's all coming in." I face south, and it all comes into my beach. I think if you have any waterfront, you're going to see stuff on your waterfront. That's just the way it is. And I've taken up. I had a whole collection of some type of nefarious pipe, which I burned right away. So I can do that. And Corona bottles, big cups,
Nips?
nips, it's all over the place. What I haven't had, and I'm fortunate for this, is any remnants of a hypodermic needle. My thought about that is they're coming in from a storm drain, and my second thought about that is they're coming in from a storm drain that's fairly near to wherever your property is, because they're not going to travel that far through it. So I don't think some of these things are coming from the center of town, or I guess it could be coming from the top of Belmont Street if we get a good rain, but it's, I think it's probably, you should look closer if that's, you may have a problem closer to your house than you think. But we don't have any resources, as Mike had pointed out, we don't have any resources to come over there and pick stuff up, unfortunately. And it's just one of those things I think I take on the board. It's the same thing actually, growing up in town. I grew up on Route 140. We were always picking stuff up off the lawn there too, because people would drive by and they'd throw stuff out, or it'd fall off a truck or whoever, whatever. So I guess it's part of cleaning up your yard. So I wish I had a better solution for that, because I don't like doing it either. One other thing I want to bring up too is that we are going to man both boat ramps and charge a fee at both boat ramps, both Corzini and the Route 20 Flint Pond boat ramp. And we are looking for young, go-getter, qualified people to do the job. I'm not sure what is the salary negotiable?
No.
The salary's not negotiable.
17 and change.
17
Yeah.
and change, okay, and a Parks and Rec shirt, okay? I think we have someone over here right now that wants to do it. I used to have a Parks and Rec shirt because I taught water skiing in Lake Quinsigamond, but I think I outgrew it. So that's that. So if you know anyone that's interested, nice job, be a fun thing to do. Hang out. I don't think you got to ask people for money. That's always but we're looking for someone that's over 21?
Yes.
21 and older.
So all of the details are on the town website.
Okay, perfect. So, great gig in the summertime. All right.
Can I ask one question going back?
Of course.
Just one thing. In terms of, I guess there's a question for law enforcement. People who throw trash out of their boats in the lake, are there laws saying anything about that, like there is for throwing out your car window on the street?
It's litter. Littering covers pretty much everything in Massachusetts: water, roadway.
Okay,
Right.
It's
covers everything.
you read the chapter and section. You can't litter anywhere in the state.
I think there's also a rule in the Lake Quinsigamond rule, which is funny, we have to have
Yeah,
a
there
rule that
is.
says that. It says you can't dump stuff on the lake either.
Correct.
So, that's it. I mean, and there's a difference. I mean, for law enforcement, it's challenging because there's a difference between someone, throwing a beer bottle out the boat, or they're driving down the thing and a cup blows out the boat. Like it wasn't on purpose. It just happened, and they tried to catch it, but they couldn't do it. By the time they turned around and got the thing, it was gone. So, there's that, because that can happen. But I'm not sure where the bottle's coming from. It could be coming from Friday source. They could have blown out of someone's, recycle that lives up the street from you. Who knows? So it's all over. It's just one of those things where you're just picking them up. But I literally drive around my boat with a trash bag in the boat, and if I see something that I think is going to be harmful, I will stop it. Then drive my family nuts. I'll stop and turn around and go pick it up. I've got some pretty, some nice treasure doing that. But
Did you find my police hat that fell off my head last year?
that was yours. I actually kept that. Okay. So
I can add one data point from where it comes. If you scull up and down the lake every morning, if you're out there early in the morning and 5 when it's raining that night, there's 4 to 5 times as much junk floating on the water than there is in the morning when it hasn't rained the night before. So I think that strongly argues it comes out of most of the drains.
Yeah, I would assume that. I mean, you know, when it rains, and especially if it's a rain over 1.5 inches or 2 inches or so, you're gonna, you know, all the stuff dumps into the lake. It's just the nature of how the system's set up. And that's kind of on both sides, because we're getting it, on the Shrewsbury side, it comes down, what's that, Broad Meadowbrook? Is it, no, not Broad Meadowbrook, what's that? Meadowbrook. So it comes out through there, and so, you know, when I'm paddling over there, and that's all you can get over there with is a paddleboard, yeah, you'll find that stuff on there. So unfortunately, that's the nature of it sometimes. All right, so the date for the next commission meeting.
Is that Wednesday, April 27th, Mr. Chair?
Is that the last Wednesday of the month? Is that,
7 PM?
we're good for that?
Yeah, we can have it at the selectmen's meeting room.
Okay, so we're gonna be back in,
Yeah, I think,
that's an off week for the school committee?
yes. So I'm
Ah,
gonna
perfect.
get bumped.
What's that?
I have the room booked, so we should be good.
Okay, I like it down there, but there's gonna be, April and May are gonna be busy times here, right?
Yeah, I think in the summer
Yeah,
we can come back here.
Okay, all right. And that's something that the commission, if they have any input on that, they don't want to be down there for whatever reason. You know, you can take the board.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay,
Seconded?
all right, all those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.